Hey guys, Andrew here from Amiga Digital, and I just wanted to create this video because I've been putting up a lot of content about this situation that I was a part of for 6 to 7 years. The client now doesn't exist. I'm going to mention who they are. It is allmylespares.com.au, and this is not so much a story about them as a story about propping up the SEO community, propping up how important SEO is, and dispel the bullshit that I hear continuously about how important SEO is, right? And then on that point, just quickly, I continuously hear from clients, from potential clients, from businesses, from a friend of a friend in the SEO community that their clients say, they all say, oh, we understand, how important SEO is. We believe in it, but then the first sign of downturn in revenue company-wide, people aren't spending money or the industry isn't as booming as it once was, the first spend out the door to decrease is SEO. So if you really think it's that important, it's, your actions speak louder than the words, yeah? So what I'm here to do is try to turn that tide with this example. Now, just quickly, disclaimer, I think there's multiple reasons why this business doesn't exist, and I wouldn't just say it's down to SEO primarily. No, I don't think that at all. It's a tragic story. It's a story that I would rather have not seen, but I might as well discuss this to put SEO back in the limelight where it ought to be, because there's a lot of SEO is dead, Andrew, and what are you going to do in 5 years, mate? You're back on the unemployment line. I started with this client with 1,500 people a month back in 2013. When I stopped working around 2019, it was sitting on around 85,000. We had just completed a site migration. I always say it's about 500,000 URLs. There were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of URLs. Yeah? Once we launched, we did not lose any traffic, right? Didn't lose any traffic. Complete site migration, complete site change. What was the number one takeaway from that site migration? Because this talk can't be about the migration without screenshots, without videos, and it's tough to get that. Number one rule that I approached, that juggernaut, right, of a task, and that this deserves a whole case study and run through, because there's principles from it. It's not that you're going to learn a like for like, this is what you do in site migrations, because it's going to be a little bit differently. Every site migration is going to be different somehow. But the number one rule, don't change shit that doesn't need to be changed. Don't change stuff. To the SEOs out there, don't change something because you want to make it feel like, you're doing something important and you want to make your job look bigger than what it is, and then you want to change stuff, right? There needs to be a bit of calculation, a bit of analysis. When you look at, for example, if you've got a website that has high amounts of branded search organically, a lot of people search for your company name, organically, and you go from Magento to Shopify, you probably won't feel, even if you mess up the site migration, potentially, unless you do something diabolical, if you just do a standard site migration, there's URLs being 301 redirected, but maybe 40%, 50%, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of broken URLs. You may get away with that site migration, right? If the branded search is 60, 70, 80, 90%. How do you measure branded search, you say? Well, one of the quick ways to kind of get to gauge it, if you're not technical, you're not an SEO, would be just to get SEMrush and have a look at the split to give you some indication of the branded versus unbranded split. How do the pros do it? Well, you go into Google Search Console and Bing, look at the keywords that generate most amount of traffic, work out the total traffic, then the total branded traffic, because that generally would be the highest, not always. You can then do some simple maths. Hey man, I was in intermediate maths, the lowest intermediate, and I can work this out with a few basic maths calculations. So you work out sort of what branded is roughly doing versus the total organic traffic. So if you got a total of 100,000 and let's say 45,000 is branded, well then the top terms will generally be branded. And if the top terms are bringing 45,000, then you've got a 45,000, 55,000 split, yeah? So you can work out, okay, unbranded is 55%, 45. With SEO, like anything in digital marketing, it's very difficult to get 100% data, but essentially what you're doing is you're working on data that can provide you with the closest to the real story as you possibly can get. That's how I would recommend doing that, the branded versus unbranded split. But if you can't, if it's like you don't know how to use Google Search Console, then at least sort of use something like SEMrush, and there could be a few other tools out there that may be able to help you do that. Now, the number one rule was do not change URL. So let's say there was 500,000 URLs. In this site migration, just quickly, just to break it down, what I did, I had this massive computer tower where it was like a full gaming monitor. Like it was like at the time, 4 years ago, it was a beast. It was like a $6,000 tower. It was built for gaming, but I had to bring that into my office. And every time someone walked past, I look at that. Whoa, man, what's that? What's that? What are you, like launching missiles into space or something? So what was happening was, I got asked this question at an SEO conference on Friday, so I thought I would elaborate. Some of the junior SEOs at the conference was asking me, like, how did you go about doing that without AI? Because I didn't use AI. I didn't use it. There's a lot of tools now, which is really cool, about URL mapping to find URLs that are more likely to be the most closely matched URL on the new site. Now, I go back to that rule again. Don't change URLs that don't need to be changed. allmowerspares.com.au/mowers/parts. Why change that URL in a site migration? Even if you want to change the parts of the site that is performing, heck, do it slowly and do it after launch, because you have so many tasks to do in a site migration. Don't make your task any more difficult than it needs to be. I'm more of the URL restoration guy as opposed to the URL redirection guy, yeah? So I only want to change URLs and redirect them if they need to be changed. Now, before you get your knickers in a knot and you start saying that redirects can preserve all your traffic, every single site migration I've done, from 5,000 pages to 10,000 to 20,000, all the migrations I did up until that point, nothing like All My Spares. Everything that I did up until that point, we had to change URLs. Like even if I didn't want to change them, we had to change them. Some URL migrations I didn't even really think of preserving URLs. It wasn't even possible, but I didn't even think of it, yeah. 30 to 40% of the traffic went down each time. They were perfectly mapped. There was only 5,000 pages. You could map them, in 6 hours, 8 hours of work, maybe 2 days, let's say, right? Whatever. But you can map 5,000 URLs. It's not that hard. 30-40% drop. 30-40% drop each time. It's always about that time. So I'm thinking URL site migrations, right? Perfect redirecting, URL mapping and redirecting, and it will come back in 12 to 15 months, generally. Page authority will start creeping up again. But, and then the traffic will come up. But if you want to see that instant loss in the short term, then change URLs and don't need to be changed. So make sure when you are doing a site migration that you're looking at analytics, you're looking at your top most popular URLs, you're downloading them, you're extracting them. There's a really cool tool in spreadsheets, Google Spreadsheets, Search Analytics, where you can kind of export to a lot of pages and a lot of rows. That should be your starting point as the URLs where you don't want to change. You can then extract URLs, you can get the clicks, you can get the impressions of your top performing URLs. Now, as I mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have anything sort of working simultaneously so you can see this video, because it's not really about the site migration. I'm just wrapping all that in because I want people to understand that technical SEO is really, really tough, right? And so when the bigger the site, the bigger the problems. So you can download that from Search Analytics and then you can start working out what URLs need to change. My lucky part of the migration, when we did it for All My Spares, was we were able to kind of do it in parts. So because we were working at the same time, hear that, clients? I was working at the same time as the development build. Because some people turn around and say, hey, we don't actually need the SEO during this, during a new site build, which is ludicrous. Of course you do. 100% you do. And not only can an SEO provide more value as to creating new digital assets around content, but your SEO should know which URLs